There we go.
Hey.
Hey, man. Sorry, I tried to end that just in time. I was 2 seconds away.
I had that happen a few weeks ago with I usually have like individual Zoom set up for individual clients so that there's none of that crossover. But I was just that day I was using my general meeting ID, and then one client came on whilst another one was still talking. I was like, oh God, this is not cool.
Oh, the
I'll
wonderful
just move
world of
away from the
technology, you know?
Yes, indeed. I'll just move away from the window because I think it probably makes it hard
There
for
we
you
go.
to
Yep. Yep.
see me.
Much better.
Um,
And I've got
Hello.
my fancy schmancy green screen.
I know. Jeez, look at that. That is super cool.
Dude, I'm like a little kid with this stuff, man. I just love it.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So how does it actually, so you've got some kind of just screen behind you, and how do you hook that up with Zoom? Is it built into the camera or something, or?
Zoom now has the ability to do that. So you go
Oh.
into settings,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a video background. And
Oh,
then
wow.
I can change the background.
Get out.
So these are different
Wow.
images, right? And then I'll just turn it off so you can actually see.
How cool. But you need that green screen, presumably, to do that.
Yep,
Yeah.
keys it out. Anything that's green, it makes it invisible. So I can have pictures, I can have video, it doesn't matter.
Wicked.
Now, through my phallic challenge head, you do see.
Well, don't talk to me about that. I know exactly what you mean about like a challenge. I'm an expert at that.
But here's the interesting thing: is that I used to call myself a cave dweller, shyest, most introverted, hidden dude you'll ever meet, and I wanted to do Facebook Lives for probably about 9 months or so, and I bought the green screen, the stand, the lights, everything, and I just couldn't get everything dialed in. And it was conveniently messed up because if I couldn't get it to work, then I didn't have to go on camera.
It's a perfect little arrangement.
And I have been sabotaging myself in this regard for years, and I didn't even realize it because there's a part of me that's been trying to protect myself and not be visible.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Allison Crow, do you know her?
Yeah.
She gave this 10-day live challenge, and
Yeah,
thinking,
I remember.
yes. Yeah. And so I did the 10 days, and then I said, all right, Carl, did you die? No. You want to do another 10? Let's do another 10. And so I got 20, and I just kept going. I've done one every single day without exception, gosh, over 200 times now.
Yeah, I can see that you've been prolific with it, which is fantastic. Prolific beats perfect.
I like that. I remember that.
Yeah. That's amazing. So how do you feel like it's going? How do you, obviously you seem like, as I've watched a few of your lives, you seem really relaxed, really comfortable with it now.
Which is the most amazing miracle.
Yeah.
Because,
isn't it? Yeah.
Well, listen, you're talking to somebody who couldn't ask girls out. He's too shy. I went to 3 different music schools. That was my main passion for years. I only got my ass up on stage a total of 3 times. So I've hidden from the world like you wouldn't believe. I probably spend 95% of my time in my own world. And so I've wanted to share Life as a Wave for many, many, many years. I've been working on it officially since 1999, but it's actually a reflection of my 51 years I've been on this planet, actually. And once I got into what I call being in the yes of just showing up, my job is to turn on the lights, turn on the camera, and say hello. That was my job. 1-2 minutes, I don't care. For 10 days in a row, then 20 in the row. Right? Now, I've got this one program, a young adult and teen and young adult coaching program. And I created a 6-minute video for that. And on my iPad behind me, I had a teleprompter.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had all this advice like, oh, you got to be animated. You got to smile while you're talking, but you don't want to sound like you're reading, all that stuff, right?
Oh,
It literally took 150 takes.
oh, disgusting. I know exactly
Now,
what you. Yeah, I think
one.
live is the most brilliant tool for that, because there's no, oh, I can stop it and re-record. Oh, that self-consciousness in a way is obliterated, because here we are, we're live.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
it.
And
Yeah.
I thought that I would have to just get used to that nervousness feeling.
Yeah.
I did not know at the time that what would actually become possible is to experience zero nervousness. And
Yeah.
so every time I get on camera now, it
Yeah.
doesn't even register in my brain. There's
Yeah.
no jitters. There's no planning. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You know, I had a really interesting experience about a year ago, actually. I was in the corporate world for about 10 years, sort of between 20 and 30. And for a few reasons, I never had an issue with speaking, you know, presentations, public speaking, and I developed one. And it sort of culminated in me running out of a sales presentation mid-sentence, which was like one of the most humiliating moments I'd ever experienced. And I went back in and finished it, like told everyone I'd just been sick or whatever, you know, which no one believed, of course.
Right.
And, so, you know, I quit that whole world because I was basically being a fraud, you know, trying to be someone I wasn't, and I physically reacted. I was having an allergic reaction to fake.
Right?
And so I'm 37 now, so that was about 8 years ago that happened. And I was absolutely determined, especially becoming a coach, that I was not going to let this thing beat me, right? And so I signed up for Toastmasters. I started doing some public speaking courses, and I ran a few workshops for like 10 people, that kind of thing. And slowly started to build it up. And it sort of culminated a year ago in I gave a keynote speech at a conference here in Australia to about 200 corporate people, basically from the diversity and inclusion space of all of the top global companies. And it was all about how shame holds high achieving people back from achieving their potential. Oof. Anyway, I'm sitting there in the front row being introduced. You know, it's like a bigger gig than I ever dreamed when I ran out of that room I would ever find the courage to do. And I'm sitting there and I cannot find one iota of nerves, fear. I am just completely relaxed, excited, can't wait to get up there and do it.
How did that feel?
And it was like, what?
Yeah, this does not compute.
This doesn't right. And then, you know, a couple of months later, I went on to do another similar talk at a big bank here in Australia, and had the same experience. And so when you were talking about how you've got to the stage with these Facebook Lives where you're just like, nothing, no nerves, no whatever, just here I go. I get it, and I also get the sort of scratching your head about that, like, whoa, I didn't think that was possible. And
possible.
Yeah.
Nobody had told me that was even possible. And now when you add, I don't know how much you know of my story or whatever, but I'll just say that a huge, the most defining aspect of my life has been my identification with my cognitive glitches, as I like to call them. Born premature, breathing problems for 5 minutes, and that set up my life for some interesting challenge. I didn't learn how to talk until I was 3. There are certain types of memory that are just don't work. And when I say I have bad memory, it's like worse than bad memory. There are certain huge holes. And then I've got dyslexia type of stuff. Then I've got ADD type of stuff. Now, I don't subscribe to labels, but I'm just using them. So,
sure, right? I get it.
And I went through my entire childhood, teenage years, scared shitless of being around people because there's this general sense of I was always 1 or 2 steps behind everybody else. So you're in a group of people and people are talking back and forth and the witty banter, right? And they would throw something at me and I would go,
very exposing.
Maybe 2 hours later or something, I would think of something, right? And so as a defense mechanism, I didn't know it at the time, I would become visibly tired. Because if you thought I was tired, that would explain why I seem so out of it. And so that added to my reticence in being visible. I don't want you to see my glitches. I don't want you to see me space out and not being able to remember the most simplistic things you could ever imagine. And they don't stick with me, right? And so, and then on top of it, my number one passion for years and years was music, man. I started playing guitar when I was 6 years old, and I started listening to George Benson. And he's got a feel and a groove that it's just like, man, that's me, right? And so that became my life. And I, at one point, was practicing 10 to 12 hours every single day.
Wow.
Right? And in the music schools and everything, I wasn't getting better. I was actually getting worse on some level.
Wow.
And I was watching all the other students moving forward, and I wasn't. Not talking about pain. And so I was taught, like most other people, the hard work ethic, just work harder.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I've got a back condition from a ski accident years ago, and I had to strap myself to the chair so I could practice 10 to 12 hours every day.
Wow.
Well, I ended up ruining my shoulder. I had to give up guitar, and it didn't help. Then after 2 music schools, Philadelphia College of Performing Arts, Musicians Institute in Hollywood, gave up, came back here to Buffalo, New York, and I got a degree in electrical and computer engineering. And there, I didn't want to do it for a living. I just wanted to learn how to get stuff to work. Because ever since I was a little kid, I'm like curiosity driven, and I dive into toys and I tear them apart and I try to figure out the nature of it and get stuff. So in engineering, in my 4th year, I was able to learn enough so I could get some stuff to work, including, I always have this by my side. It's like a work of art for me now, but this is an automatic guitar tuner I invented. Because I hated tuning the guitar. And so in my 4th year, I invented this thing where you put it on the bridge and it's hooked up to the micro tuners with a little clutch and everything. And I made this homemade little computer thingy and you strum, hit the button, and 2 seconds later, it got all tuned up.
Wow.
Utterly, completely exciting for me. That's all I wanted. And I quickly gave up that. Once I graduated, it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready for music again. Now, here's the really cool thing. I went to the 3rd music school. It's LA Music Academy, and there I studied world percussion. Now, all this time, I've had little tiny tastes of what it's like to be in flow. That sweet groove. When I'm improvising and it takes you to that different place, right? But it would only last for maybe 1 or 2 seconds. That's it. And I thought, what the hell is wrong with me? And so I'd practice more and more and more and more. And I knew all the scales, the arpeggios. I would learn other people's licks and all that stuff. So when I was in the 3rd music school, first day of rock drum class, I'm in the front row. The drummer for the band Pink, his name is Mark Schulman. He was the teacher for the day. There's 300 drummers in this room. I'm feeling self-conscious and stuff, but I'm being proactive. I'm sitting in the front. I'm going to do this time. I'm going to make it work. And he bounds into the room. He walks up to the front of the stage, walks right up to me, puts a metronome clicker right on the desk. He says, all right, dude, bury the beat. Bury the beat, bury the beat, bury the beat. So yeah, what you want to do is you want to clap with the click. And when you clap at the same time as the click, it buries the click. So you're the drummer. You are the clock for the band.
Of course.
You have to have a nice steady, because everybody's going to base it off of that. And so he said, all right, so go ahead, try clap at the same time as the click. So here I am, I'm feeling self-conscious. I start to feel it, right? I was like, okay, and click, right? I'm like this. He said, no, stop. You're trying way too hard.
Force.
Relax, close your eyes, take a nice deep breath, stick out your hands, and just let it happen. So I started again. And it sounded like he had turned off the metronome.
Huh.
But when I stopped clapping, there it was. And he said, dude, you just demonstrated a force and phenomenon in nature called entrainment. To entrain is to bring one rhythm or pattern into another. And if you get the hell out of the way, that force of nature will help you get in sync with the click. It'll do it for you.
Yeah.
That, in the very moment, changed not only my life, it changed my understanding of my cognitive issues. Now I say I have one issue. I have a flow glitch because my entrainer is a little trigger happy. It has a little bit hard time, like if it's a radio station, it has a little hard time locking into a station. That explained why I was getting these little moments of sweet groove when I'm playing, and then it goes in, it goes out. It goes in, and it goes out. So if you're familiar with Tourette syndrome, okay, so that's one way I explain it, is that as I'm playing, I have a Tourette syndrome-like flinch that pulls me out of flow. And that part of the mind I now call the controller. And the controller tries to grab onto the reins when it's threatened, or like you're driving the car and it's raining or snowing, and it's like you find yourself holding on extra tight. The controller part of the mind is trying to protect you. But paradoxically, it's actually putting you at more risk, because the controller part of the mind can only operate so quickly, but the flower part of the mind can operate tenfold, 100-fold quicker. It's its job to be in flow, not the controller. Do you see where I'm going with this? And that
totally.
Because of all these cognitive shortcomings and glitches I was born with, my mind, the controller, overcompensated, so that the harder I tried to practice, the more I was emphasizing the controller. So when I learned of entrainment, it made it all click into place, and it is the kernel of life as a wave that made the whole thing light up. And I had learned it in engineering, but I didn't know it until the drummer for Pink told me, that's entrainment. And that is the magic. That's what will enable you to do what you're here to do. And that's why I call my business Untapped Genius. Genius is the abilities in our body, in our minds, that enables us to do our thing. Ba-boom!
Amazing. Such a great story. I just I love the metronome because it's so visceral, it's so palpable still to this day. Like, you bring that to life so beautifully. And I just know that those that sounds like a very, very radically important moment in your life, where like a thousand pennies dropped in that moment.
After years and years and years of trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with my music, as well as all the other things I had mentioned to you. And it's because of that struggle that I'm now able to help other people who have had similar things where, they're here to do something, but something's getting in the way. And there's wonderful approaches out there. But I have not seen any approach, and I've read over 300 books. I take the seminars. I love it all. Great stuff. But after all that, I was just still stuck. And so what I ended up doing is I wiped the slate clean of everything I had learned, and I started from scratch. And I pretended I was on planet Earth for the first time, and nobody had told me what it's all about. And so I ended up, and I don't know why, but I asked myself a question. So, all right, so here I am. So what does life want? I don't know why I came up with that question. But the answer I came up with is, well, as far as I can tell, life wants one thing. More life. It wants to move, grow, expand, become more. And it's looking for conduits, channels, whatever, to do it, through my body, through my mind, through my passions, the movement that's created through resolving my issues and challenges, and the overall trajectory of my life. There's movement. And so what I did with that is I've identified what I call 10 pitfalls to personal growth. Shit that gets in the way from us doing what we set out to do. One of them is sometimes, paradoxically, the more we want to get something to happen, the more stuck we get. Like being in quicksand, the more you try and get out, the more you sink, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that'll get some of the best of us. So I identified certain things that get in the way. And then I created the Life is a Wave model based on the one thrust of life is movement. And so when a client comes to me and say, hey, I want to lose weight, or I want to travel the world, or I don't care what it is, they're looking for movement. And then I've created a model that looks to nature and how does it create movement, often because of, not in spite of, the challenges, and turning it into fuel for new growth. Forest fire that creates the new clearing for new growth. So at some point, if you ever want to, I would love to show you the whole core training, and I'm bringing it down to like 10, 15 minutes so that they see the core elements. And once you see the core elements, we can do all sorts of stuff with it. So that's a quick backdrop of my story and how the Life is a Wave and my passion for all this stuff, where it all came from. So for whatever it's worth, there you go.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's so interesting because, there's so many things coming up for me, both in terms of having watched your Facebook Live, I think, day before yesterday, about that experience of being so out of flow and then being so in flow. That was really what sparked me to want to connect with you, because there's really 2 or 3 experiences I had last year, a bit like that I wanted to share with you, purely because I felt really strongly that in sharing those with you, it might strengthen something that is coming forth in you right now. So if you're up for it, like, I don't want to be in any way presumptive, but if you're up for it, I'd love to share those with you.
I'm here.
Yeah. But, just as we continue talking and as you explain, your story, so there's so many other things popping up, so many, so much resonance with what you're experiencing. I love it. So thank you for sharing.
And thank you for reaching out. You have no idea the impact that had on me. Because I've done over 200 of these things, and the part of me that was hiding from sharing Life is a Wave publicly, I've done it with my clients for years, but not publicly. I was afraid of being rejected. Yeah, right. And so then I started doing these lives, and in the beginning, I even had 300 people visits or views. And then this one day it went, and it's almost stayed really, really low ever since then. And so my worst fear came true. I was basically, how my mind was interpreting it is, oh, see, you're being rejected. Nobody likes Life is a Wave.
No one really wanted to hear this. Yeah.
Right? And you might as well give up. And so since I had done it every day without exception, I woke up the next day and said, so Carl, do another live? Hell yeah. And so I did another live. And so what it's taught me is that even when my worst fears kind of come true, it doesn't matter. I can keep doing my thing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but when somebody actually responds, the other day, or I've got this guy Muddy, who's we've been.
I know Muddy. I had a chat with Muddy a few months back.
Oh, really? Great guy. Good people, isn't he?
Yeah, beautiful man. Yeah, beautiful man.
Oh, we get together twice a week now.
Nice.
And he's helping me clarify my message of what Life is a Wave is all about, so that it actually resonates with people and it makes sense. It's like, oh, I see what that's about. Oh, yeah, let me learn more about it.
Yeah,
that's been my biggest.
Because you get it so viscerally, like in your body, like you just instantly know the essence of it. And trying to convey that to people is a completely different story, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he's been helping me with that. Now, the thing that he does with Whiteboard Academy, he draws pictures as you talk about stuff, right? So he gave me a 4-hour session, and I went through the entire Life as a Wave model, and he had this beautiful diagrams and pictures, real friendly stuff as a reflection of that. And he's helping me in every way that he can. And we get together every Tuesday and Friday, and I'm so grateful for him. I'd actually take him on as a partner if he wasn't already hooked into other things, because yeah, love that dude.
Yeah, great guy. Really great guy. You know, there's a great little segue to what I wanted to share with you from what you just said just before about your worst fear coming true. It's kind of personal what I'm going to share with you, but it feels really right to do that, even though we're really only just meeting for the first time. So I want to just backtrack and tell you what led me to have the impulse to reach out to you.
Please.
You know, I heard you in your video talking about your day, your shit day, the ankle, you know, all that stuff. Like, and I just thought it was so courageous to do your live and just be so authentic in that place that you're in at that moment, out of flow, right? You know, as coaches, that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do because they want to look good. They want to appear like they're always in flow and, you know, all that stuff. So
yeah, I decided long ago I was going to do the exact opposite.
Yeah. So I really admired that. And then when I saw your live the next day where you said, you know, you woke up and you were feeling shit and it's the first day of the year and you wanted to get some momentum and all this stuff. And the moment that you had where you were like, ooh, what if the only barrier to being in flow is my resistance to the lack of flow right now? If I was to flow with the lack of flow, then maybe I would just find myself in flow. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, I call it being in the no of what is versus being in the yes of what is.
Yeah. And last year, there were 2 moments in my life where that kind of thing happened on quite a big scale. And they're the things that I wanted to share with you because I learned something in that, and more than learn, I saw something. I saw a truth about life, about God, the universe, whatever your word is for that, that changed me. That changed me a bit like your metronome experience, and has left me with a radically different environment in here. Like radically different. Just
cool.
Just
awesome.
Not because I'm trying, just because it is, right? That true transformation.
Yeah, something truly shifted.
Massive, right? And so I was just super compelled to tell you about these 2 stories. And I just have a sense that there's something in it for you. I don't know what it is. And
please do.
And I hope there is.
I want to be able to be really, really present. Nature's calling. I'll be right back.
You do that, my friend. You do that.
in a little bit.
Is that your lovely pooch?
Oh, my black lab. Yep, Sophia.
Yeah. I grew up with a golden retriever as a kid. And he was just the best companion. I'm one of 4 boys. And so, yeah, he was like pulled around and poked and, you know, all that stuff. And
he put up with it all.
Proud. Yeah. He just dealt with it. Yeah.
Oh, thank God for our creatures, man. I'll tell
Beautiful
you.
animals. Huh?
Yeah. Anyway, so
I want to give you just a little context for this. So I'm gay and spent the first 25 years of my life pretending not to be, which was, it turns out, not probably the best move. So, you know, I got into a relationship with a woman. We almost got married. We bought a house together. Like, I was dead set on, I do not want to be gay, right? And part of my running out of the room mid-sentence was I'd come out by that time as gay, but I had learned to be someone I'm not. I'd learned very deeply at a very young age that, I just, a bit like you're describing in a way, I feel different, and it doesn't feel to me like this difference is a good thing. In fact, it feels like it's a really bad thing. And so it's not safe to be to allow the flow, to the movement to come. So I must stifle that and create this, you know, false self, essentially. And so part of the running out of the room was I was standing there as a false self, and a greater part of me was absolutely done with that and wanted to, and required a very dramatic expression of that in order to change me onto a different track, right?
Makes perfect sense.
Things in motion. So cut forward like quite a few years, you know, I'm now a coach. I'm going back about 4 years ago. I'm a coach. I studied psychotherapy for 2 years post-grad. Full-time. I literally pulled myself to pieces, laid all the bits out on the floor, polished some things up, threw some stuff away, realized I didn't have some things at all that I needed, put myself back together, started as a coach, and really began talking about authenticity and being real. You know, I'm like the authentic leadership guy for LGBTI people in big corporations. You know, I've been doing that kind of work. And about 4 years ago, I met who I thought was the love of my life. Okay. I met this guy. He's a doctor. He's gorgeous, handsome, beautiful man, kind, you know, real, honest, you know, all the things that you really want. And so we get into a relationship, and we were together for 3.5 years. And, you know, if I look back, actually, on reflection, I spent most of that 3.5 years terrified that I would lose him. On a subconscious, deeper level, that was driving a lot of my behavior, a lot of my behavior. And I had no idea that I was really continuing to be inauthentic in this relationship, even as Captain Authenticity, right? Blind spot, right? All these blind spots. Like, to give you an example, Phil's a doctor, and so he's a bit of a scientist. And, you know, I'm a spiritual guy, you know, and that has been awakening in me for a long time. And, you know, we'll go to bed, and he'll be reading his book in bed, and I would want to read my book, but I wouldn't read my book because I would, without really knowing any of this was true or going on for me, I would just feel like, oh, what's he going to think of that? So I'll just put that away, and I'll look at my phone instead, or whatever. Not conscious at all, unconscious, right? So we're going through this relationship, and it's amazing in lots of ways, but there's this, you know, persistent underlying feeling of low-grade anxiety about losing him. You know, he's a brilliant man, and I love him and all that stuff. And so at the beginning of last year ago, he comes home from the gym and he looks at me and he literally holds on to the kitchen countertop and he takes a really big breath and he says, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore.
Ugh.
And I mean, you can imagine how that feels, especially in that context. You know, the man of this guy that I've put on this pedestal, who's so much better than me, now doesn't want to be with me, which basically means I suspected I was shit, ugly, unattractive, all those things, and this just really confirms it.
Right.
You know,
right.
I do not deserve someone that great, right? So that kind of kicks off, you know, that horrible, deeply sort of traumatic thing. And, you know, suffering is, in the end, I think, you know, the most powerful teacher, because I guess a bit like with your metronome, you know, a lot of things came together in that moment for me, right? A lot of things came together for me, lessons that I'd kind of learned but were still cerebral, suddenly clicked into place as I became a yes to what was happening. And within 48 hours, I went from being utterly devastated, broken, to ecstatic. Like, I truly mean ecstatic. I was called, like, immediately to do the most bizarre thing, right? I look back and I'm like, fuck, I was really brave to follow that impulse, right? So this is a guy who's secretly been hiding himself, right? That's the context. And without even knowing it himself. And it's just coming to light in this, you know, cracking open of the seed. And the, you know, the voice.
Ooh, cracking open of the seed. Love it.
Yeah.
I got to write that down.
Do it. So the growth that you talk about says to me, you got to go to a nudist beach.
Say that again. What?
Oh yeah, you heard right. You have to go to a nudist beach.
Oh, me?
That's not you, me. That's what I got. You have to go to a nudist beach.
All of a sudden, I got the urge, like, you know, maybe I do too. That actually would be a good thing for me. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So I'm like, okay, well, that's unexpected. Okay, I'll do it. So off I go. Alone, by myself. You know, this is literally day 2 breakup.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to the nudist beach and I take off all my clothes. I am naked. There's no fucking hiding here. Here I am. And I got it. I got it. I got what I had been doing, and I got that I was now free. Free to be me. And I ran into the water, butt naked, and was just absolutely ecstatic. And the image that I felt was like, I honestly felt like I was a dolphin. I felt like I was just playing in the waves, and, you know, and it was pure joy.
Oh.
And the thing the reason I wanted you to hear this, and why I was so called to tell you this, and there's another story in a second that I want to share with you, very similar, is that a bit like in your live where you said you went from like so out of flow to so in flow, in that moment of that, like that powerful contrast from broken to ecstatic, I really saw something. I really saw something in that. It wasn't just that, oh, I'm free to be me. What I saw was, how the fuck did that just happen? How I have a completely different mind now to the one I had an hour ago. A totally different mind. And I like rewound the tape. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't do any of that. Like, there was no 10-point plan, and
right, there was no intellectually manipulating stuff to make it happen.
None of it. It just, I got told to go to a nudist beach, and I did it. That's it.
Full-on activation.
It was a moment where I was like, holy shit. They're really, I can talk a good story about God, the universe, the intelligence behind life. I can talk that up as well as anyone. But I never really, really got that. Truly, like I know this is an intelligent universe. Not that sounds like a good idea, and I hope it's true.
And, that's the whole thing. That's another one of the pitfalls to personal growth thing, is that the intellectual distinction versus the actual embodiment and experience of that distinction in the moment.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Two different things.
But I'll never poo-poo the intellectual part of it, because they can help lead to the experience.
Totally.
But without the experience, that and 50 cents will not get me a cup of coffee.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. So I was like, oh my God, right. Okay, well, I wanna call on this force, this intelligence in my life. I don't want to do it alone anymore. And I'm driving back, me and Phil have agreed I'm moving out of the house, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life and where am I going to live and all that stuff. And
again, you said this was day 2 that this happened, right?
This is day 2. Yeah, day 2. And I'm like driving home, and I'm like, I get the idea. I want to go and live in Bali for 4 months. Indonesia.
Don't tell me you did it.
And I'm like, oh, you can't do that. I'd just done these 2 big speeches at these conferences. I was like, you really need to be here in Melbourne so that you can capitalize on all of that. You hear all the calculation going on. And I'm like, okay, if there's an intelligent universe, then I want a sign that I'm meant to go to Bali, if that's true. And I look to my right on the freeway driving along. I look to my right, and the first thing I see, there's a big office building. And you know how they have this, the same sign of the company name on the side of the buildings. This company was called EGO, Ego. And I was like, and it was huge letters, Ego. And I just asked for a sign about whether I should go to Bali. And I took that as, yes, you should go to Bali.
Got it.
So I drive home, and I'm now not staying at our place. I'm staying at my friend's house. And I get back there, and I've got flights to Bali on the computer.
Wow.
And I'm about to press go. And I'm hesitating. And I'm like, all right, if there's an intelligent universe here, then you're going to tell me what to do. So you can start to hear, this is someone who has lived a very controlled
and now you're letting go and trusting.
I'm surrendering, trusting, right? So I'm like, I need another sign before I hit go on this. I need another sign. And I'm sitting here just like I'm sitting here talking to you. And I sit back in my chair, and I look to my right, And my friend has this like tube of hand cream on the desk. And the hand cream is manufactured by Ego, the company who I'd just driven past.
Holy shit.
I was
wow.
like, wow, this is freaking crazy. So I hit go on the flights. 5 weeks later, I find myself on a plane to Bali.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Oh, that's just awesome.
So I'm on a plane to Bali. And, you know, this has gotten
talk about trusting. I mean, holy shit.
Whoa, yeah. And this has gotten me quite high by now. I'm in flow a lot. I'm telling people I'm going to Bali because I'm going to write my book. I'm going to write my book. It's going to be amazing, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm still having some moments where, you know, it's tough. I'm saying goodbye to Phil and we're you know, just moving stuff out of the house. And there's still those moments for sure. But there's a feeling of just certainty around, you know, this is correct, what's happening here. And Phil can't believe it. 2 or 3 days later, I'm saying to him, hey, you know, I think this is really right. And I'm not saying it out of some place of fuck you.
Right.
Out of like, yeah. I even said to him, you know, I've always trusted your instincts about stuff. And I totally trust your instincts that this is the right thing for us. And he's like going, he's a bit wounded by this. He's like, can't you at least cry a little bit?
Right.
So I'm on my way to Bali, feeling great. And 3 or 4 days into being in Bali, this is all slipping. It's all like this high, this feeling of like, oh my God, this is great, starts to crumble. And I now know that this was divinely inspired, but this choice did not seem divinely inspired in the moment at all. I had booked the same hotel that me and Phil had stayed in 2 years prior in Bali, which, you know, memories,
Right.
you know,
clinging to that, yeah.
And then so I arrive at this hotel and they have put me in the same room that we stayed in, the exact same room that we stayed in. And I walk into the room and just burst into tears. And I start crumbling, man, like really crumbling. What the fuck am I doing here? I don't know why I'm here. I'm here to write. I'm here to make videos. You know, I can't even do any of that because I'm absolutely distraught. Why the hell did I get sent here? This is bullshit. You know, the opposite of faith. And I literally come undone in this hotel room. I feel lost. I feel alone. It's as bad as the moment when Phil said, I don't want to be with you anymore. Worse.
I was just about to say probably even worse.
Yeah. So I call my friend Ricky, who's a coach in the US, and she's an amazing woman, amazing, super spiritual. And you know what they say, when your faith is wavering, sometimes you need to hang on the back of somebody else's. And you know, she didn't try and fix me up and make me good. She let me crumble with her. And so I crumbled and cried and all those things. And she told me I was going to be okay and this was going to work out, just to keep moving. And so I thought, right, what can I do? I'll go to the other side of the island, somewhere I haven't been before, because we had explored this whole area together, and it was I was getting slammed by all these memories and
right,
you know, horrible. And so I'm like, right, go somewhere where we didn't go together, get away from this. And I'm walking down the road and I call my brother back in Australia and I'm like trying to put a brave face on it, but I'm like not in a good way at all. And suddenly it hits me. I'm like, right, if it's true that God, the universe sent me here, then go back to what was the impulse that was coming up, right? And the impulse that was coming up at the time was, gay people suffer with 2 to 4 times the rates of anxiety, depression, suicidality, all this stuff. And I wanted to write my book about how to be real, ironically, how to be authentic, because that's the answer to this kind of, mental health crisis that this community battles with. And so I sit in the cafe, distraught, broken, crumbling, and I just go, just research something, just research the issues. So I'm like researching, and within an hour, I'm feeling really good again. I'm feeling really, really good. And then I call my friend in the UK and we have a chat and I tell her about how I've just crumbled and we start giggling and laughing about it and all this stuff. And before I know it, I'm back to that same place, like within an hour. And I'm like, right, either I am bipolar or something else is happening here. Because I am back into that space with a mind that has just done a complete 180 in an hour, from deep, deep despair to ecstasy, joy. And I'm like, and so this is, I hope you can see why hearing your experience of, being so out of flow and then into flow, this is what drew me to share this with you.
Yeah. This is kick-ass. I love it. Thank you so much so far for sharing that.
You're awesome. And so I'm literally stepping back then going, well, because now I'm correlating the experience when we broke up and the 2 days, the shift from total devastation to ecstasy. And now I've had that a second time. And I'm like,
right.
Okay. Right. So basically it is possible to totally shift, totally and I was like, oh wow, this is about consciousness. This is about contracted consciousness versus expanded consciousness. And I started drawing all these diagrams about consciousness and how it works. I haven't got a clue how consciousness works. I'm drawing these diagrams and I'm like, okay, so this happens and consciousness gets dragged in here and then it blah, blah, blah. And I'm drawing all out and I'm suddenly completely clear about the mechanics behind what had just happened in that moment and what had happened 4 months prior. I'm like, holy shit, I now know how I just did that. Or put more accurately, I now know how it just did that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whoa. Whoa, I feel like I've got the answer, if there is one. And it just has unfolded since then in a way I could never have predicted. It dawned on me that the reason I knew instantly why I was there in Bali. I knew instantly why I was there. It was, I just left one relationship. It was to get into another relationship, but not with another human being. It was to get into a deep, intimate, personal relationship with God, the universe. You know how if you meet somebody new, you're like texting them all the time and calling them and wanting to see them all the time. I'm like, that is the relationship I need to have with God. That is the level of intimacy I want to have with the intelligence behind life. I want to get into bed with the universe permanently.
I love it.
I want
What
the
a way
universe.
of expressing it. I love it.
I want to make love to the universe. I want to give and receive everything, in just like I would the most beautiful lover. And
I have to write that one down too. That's another great one.
and so I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
okay. So this is what this is about. So basically, the second half of last year, I lived in Bali. I went and visited my family in the UK. And, you know, Ramdas says, if you think you're evolved, go and spend time with your family.
Yeah, right.
You know, so it was a great opportunity to get involved or to get into this relationship with the universe because, you know, I needed it there. I needed it living in Bali alone. You know, I actively did not make friends in Bali. I wanted to be cultivating this relationship as the primary relationship in my life. So here I am, 3 months into the Bali trip, and I'm like, right, I've only come away, I had actually only booked to come away for 8 weeks, but I extended it to 4 months. And I'm like, well, I'm halfway back to England where I'm originally from. I might as well go and see my family. My brother's having a baby. So I'll go back to England for 2 months, hang out with the fam and see the new baby born. And then I'll come back to Bali for a couple of weeks, and then I'll finally come back to Australia. So there's the plan. A week later, Phil sends me a message, and he says,
Uh-oh.
hey, how's it all going? I'm coming to Bali in October.
Oh.
I just wanted to give you or ask if you got any tips about where I can go. October is when I would be on the way back from the UK to Australia via Bali. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be in Bali in October. What's your dates? They're exactly the same dates. And he goes, oh my God, that makes me so happy. And I'm like, I'm not sure how that makes me feel, to be honest. And he goes, can we have a chat? And I was like, sure. So we get on Skype. And he goes, look, I'm fine now. I'm really fine. And I get the sense that you're really fine now. But I can't stop thinking about how you're the best human I've ever met in my life. And I can't move on without, finally move on without saying to you or asking you whether you would be willing to consider getting back together again. And it's an instant yes for me, instantly. And so we have some Skypes and discuss it, and we have some really fucking deep, honest conversations. You know, I tell him what a fake I had been for so much of our relationship without even realizing what I was doing. And he's honest with me about, you know, what had been going on for him. And so we hatch a plan because he was going to be in Europe in August. We hatch a plan to meet in Israel, a place we had always wanted to go together, and we've both never been before. And so for the first time in 6 months, I fly out from London to Tel Aviv. And for the first time in 6 months, I see him again. And we are just a go. It is transformed. And we're sitting there on the beach, and there's this moment where I'm like, a story from those 2 days of tragedy to ecstasy comes up. And I'm like, oh, I want to tell him. And then that same impulse kicks in, and I'm like, oh, no, he won't get that. He won't understand that. You can't say that. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly that thing that I was doing before. So I'm like, right, I have to tell him this. So I tell him about an experience I had day 2 of the breakup. I'm walking down the street, and I just stop and look at this flower. And I'm looking at this flower, and I am just overwhelmed it was like the universe was looking at its own creation through my eyes, and
Which it literally is.
Yeah, but it was visceral. It was so visceral in a way I'd never experienced before, and it was completely humbled and blown away by its own creation, and I experienced that in my being. I'd never experienced anything like that before, and this is what I wanted to tell him, and I'm like, the scientist isn't going to get this, so I'm like, shit, I've got to tell him if this relationship's going to be any different, I've got to be honest, all that stuff. So I tell him. He goes, oh, I get that all the time. I'm like, what? He goes, oh, yeah, that happens to me frequently. Wow. Doesn't everyone get that? I'm like, I don't think so. And I'm like, oh my God, I have completely misjudged this man.
Holy shit.
I do not have a clue who I'm really with here.
Wow. How cool is that?
And so that was in August last year. It's now January. We went to Bali together for those 2 weeks. We came back to Australia, moved into a new apartment together. We have been having the time of our lives. We are like honeymooners, where it's like a completely different relationship, and at the same time the same relationship. And what I'm noticing is I'm walking around with a mind that is it's just saying completely different things to me than it ever said my whole life. It used to say, don't sit there, you're fat, your tummy's hanging over, he'll see it, and it's ugly. And it used to say, don't do that presentation, or okay, if you're going to do that presentation, just know that it's going to be really painful in the run up to it, because you're going to have to obsess over it to make it perfect. And that's what my mind used to say, and it said some good stuff too, for sure, otherwise I wouldn't be here, right? But I now have a mind that I walk around with, and it goes, oh my God, this is amazing, you look really good today. You can totally do this. This is right. I have a mind that is somehow at home in itself, and my physiology is changing. My experience of life is just completely altered.
How's your physiology changing?
I'm eating completely differently. I used to, growing up as a kid, I was bullied, so I used to cope with that by eating a lot, and then I got fat, and then I got bullied for being fat. And so really food has been my emotional crutch most of my life. And I'm not doing that anymore at all. Like spontaneously, it just stopped. I was messy around the house all the time, and now I'm just want to be tidy. It just is, I'm not trying. That's just is happening.
This is just thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
I'm speechless with it. And so very much appreciate you sharing that with me.
Something tells me that that was important for you to hear. I don't know why, honestly. I don't know why, but I was absolutely compelled to tell you that. Or I don't know why.
And the final piece is what hits me the hardest. I've experienced more freedom to be me in the past year and a half, 2 years than I've had altogether previous. I think I was very well trained from my society, my family, from my mother, to care very, very much about what you think of me. And then I need to fit in.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's been this pull in me for my own autonomy. I think it started when I was about 8 years old, and I was in Sunday school, and the nun told us that we were all born sinners. And in that moment, as an 8-year-old, I'm so grateful I had the wherewithal to poke a hole in that. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. We're born flawed? Why would God do that? That just did not make sense. And in that very moment, that was my very first moment of questioning authority. And then over time, I realized, like, uh-oh, nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. Man, that was fantastic because it put me on my own path.
Thank God.
Truth.
Thank God. Yeah.
It's also the very difficult way to live life because it's infinitely more easier to just follow the crowd.
Oh,
and then I thought, I've got to reject the crowd so I can go in my own direction. And then I discovered the paradox.
That. Yeah.
And here's the example I give. And it's very fresh in my mind right now because I'm in Buffalo, New York. We have a football team that just won and got into the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. And for years as a kid, I was very much into sports. I was a quarterback. I was a running back in football. I was a pitcher in baseball. Awesome skier. I can ski better than I can walk and talk. So I had that stuff. But there was this one day in high school where we had a pep rally for a football game. And I had already been on the path to finding out and craving what's real versus made up. What's the nature of reality here? It's just an ongoing question I live in. And I realized, like, wait a minute, what's everybody getting excited for? This is just a pep rally for some stupid football game. This is fake. It's made up. And since that didn't jive with my value of being real, I rejected football.
Yeah, interesting.
And I was proud of it.
Wow.
Until years, decades later, I realized that in the pursuit of my freedom to be me, at the same time, paradoxically, I enslaved myself by that same thing. Because my dad and I, we used to go to the football games together, and we had season tickets. And all his Italian old friends, we all, right? And they would have the hot chocolate, and they'd have the sandwiches for us. And, what a wonderful, beautiful experience. But when I determined that, this football thing and it's all made up, I rejected it. Guess what I stopped doing? I stopped going to the games with my dad. And now years later, he's 85. He's retired after being a doctor for 54 years. And in the past year, he's aged. Oh, is the internet? I see an internet unstable. Am I still viewable? Can you hear me?
Hey, Carl, I'm losing you.
Yep. I think it's going to come back.
Yeah.
Is it back now?
I think you're back. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever the it is, it's back.
So I robbed myself of years of time with my dad.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Totally see it. Got it.
And so now there are some people who are proud to be anti-football because it's aggressive, the warrior, and I agree. I'm a softie to the nth. Now I realize I can have my values, but I can also hold on to it loosely.
Yeah.
So it gives me the joy of the possibility of, hey, this Sunday we're gonna be. I'm gonna go to my dad's house and we're gonna all watch the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now I'm free to do that again.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Now, I don't remember why I just brought that up, but that is a very
I think
thing for me.
I think before you were saying, you said something about what I said at the end about maybe the physiology, some of the changes that had happened really struck you. There was something about that, I think.
Yeah, and the I'll say that the being true to myself, being on my own path, it's lovely. It's hard. I'd have it be no other way. And I also love knowing that I know one of the tricks at play with it. That it's okay to have my values, but it's also okay at the same time to be in the midst of stuff that might not necessarily show up as such. I gave my very first public speaking talk, which I wanted to do for years, just like in music. But I never gave myself permission to get up on stage until there was a hosted event for the United Nations International Day of Happiness. I don't know how they found me, but they called me and said, hey, we would love to fly you out to California to give a talk for us. Oh,
wow.
Shit. Well, yes, I'll do it. And I had to say yes instantly, otherwise the mind's going to get in the way and there's no way.
Of course.
So I went out there and I gave my first talk. And some of my worst fears did come true. My biggest fear is that technology would crap out on me and I'd be left on stage blank. That is precisely what happened.
Wow.
The clicker thingy to change the slides wouldn't work. So I spent about 3-4 minutes up on stage trying to, but I was okay. I actually ended up being what I call on the yes and that comes from the cardinal rule of comedians or anybody who's improvising.
Yeah,
you have to be in the yes of whatever they give you, and wherever they say, you have to be in the yes of that, so that you can bounce and go off.
I just started an improv class just recently. Yeah, so I just learned about yes and like.
Oh, cool! Well, there you go.
And I'm loving it. I'm like, wow, this is so cool.
Oh, dude, and this is not a small thing, because the unexpected is to be expected.
Yeah.
Right. And then when that unexpected happens, the default reaction in my mind is going to be, nope.
Yeah.
I'll honor that, because I never want to control my mind, because I know the paradox of that. Mine has a mind of its own. I don't want to control. I do want to entice, though. Entice. Yeah. And that makes all the difference in the world to me, because I've been battling my mind forever, trying to fix all these glitches and crap.
Yeah.
I have gotten more freedom by just on my wall. I've got this piece of paper. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show it. If I can reach it. There we go.
Oh, I love that. Be your calmness.
Glitches and all.
Yeah.
Glitches and all.
Oh, I love that. You know, I really needed to hear this today because next week on Thursday, I'm giving a keynote. I'm calling it a performance, not a speech, because it's going to be like TED Talk / dance party.
Cool.
Like, I'm going for it, baby.
Nice.
I am absolutely going for it. But I needed to hear both to be reminded of yes and glitches and all.
Yeah, and be in your Matthew-ness.
Matthew-ness of it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And what I've devised is so well, the cool thing about it is I have not sat down and cerebrally come up with what I'm going to do. I've literally, now that I'm in this intimate personal relationship with God, I'm like, okay, so what is it? Like what needs to be said? How should it be said? You know, And the kind of stuff that has come up that I'm going to do, I couldn't have come up with myself.
Right.
I wouldn't have dreamed of doing the things that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to have the whole talk is about the voice in your head and how, the mind essentially, but I call it for this talk, the voice in your head, how it really smashes our self-esteem and why gay people have been wired for a voice that is more harsh than the average, right? That's the basis of the talk. And from the moment I get up, I'm going to be handcuffed to my best friend and one of my former clients, and they are going to be my mind. As I walk up to the stage, they are going to be saying, oh, he's totally going to mess this up. And then the other one's going to be like, why did they ask him to do this? Like, he doesn't have anything interesting
Brilliant.
to say.
I totally get it.
I'm going to get to the mic, and they're going to start having a conversation with each other, and I'm going to go, enough! They're waiting for me. Shh. And so they're going to like turn around insulted.
Fucking brilliant. Love it. Perfect.
And I jump in and start talking. That was just handed to me in my lap. I did not think of that. It just came. So thank you for sharing your bits, because however that ends up panning out in the moment is how I want it to be, and I want to be okay with that, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I mean, it really is a practical place to come from with this stuff. I remember the first time I got the notion was I was watching some Facebook video, and there was a model walking down the runway, and her the chute thing breaks or whatever.
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
And she starts to fall. And if I'm going to draw out a couple of things for you in a minute, but just to give you a quick thing is from digital electronics, I know it sounds really weird, but digital electronics is a bunch of zeros and ones, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And you can express everything and anything, the most complex thing on some level, it's zeros and ones, openings and closings.
Yeah, on and off. Yeah.
And so I'm watching her walk down the drive. She's starting to fall. And as she's falling, if she was in the no of it, she would have panicked, boom, gotten embarrassed, and then the audience would have felt the same.
Yeah.
But she was in the yes and, because as she was starting to fall, I could see her body was starting to twirl, and when she fell, she went, ta-da!
I love that.
And then everybody had fun with it.
Yeah.
So now I'm washing the dishes, and my elbow knocks a glass. Now I live in a loft, cement floors, and I was in the yes and of it. How do I know? Because all of a sudden my foot sticks out and it catches the glass so it doesn't break.
I love it.
Now the flower part of the mind, if I'm in the yes and, the flower part of the mind gets to kick in. I'm going to draw a couple things out for you. Can I?
I'd love to, but I also will say that I'm going to need to go in probably the next 10 minutes because
Perfect. Me too.
I have a meeting. So, but I would love that. Thank you so much.
Cool. And we will reconnect again.
I would love to. Yeah,
absolutely.
It really reminds me the model thing reminds me of Beyonce at a concert once. She came down off the stage to meet, as she was singing, to meet the crowd, shake people's hands and all that stuff, and she's singing away, and they have those fans that make the hair all like fancy. Right. Her hair gets caught in the fan, and she's like there like this, and she's like, I love you like EXO, and she continues singing because she's in the yes of it, right? She's yes, and she nails it, and it's a good minute before they managed to get that hair out.
Perfect.
She carries on singing the whole song. Google Beyonce hair and fan, and you'll find it.
I'm going to do that because that'll be another great example of being the yes and.
I want to be in the Beyonce-ness.
Beyonce. Perfect. So now, okay. Share screen.
Isn't this technology super cool? I love Zoom. It just makes my job so easy.
Absolutely love it. Now watch what I'm going to do here. I've got a graphic tablet.
You are such a tech guru. I love
wireless pen. And now, instead of using a mouse, I can write things out very easily.
Oh, I love it.
Basically a virtual chalkboard or a classroom.
I love it.
And I love talking and drawing things out.
Yeah.
The whole Life is a Wave model, as you're going to see, is all picture oriented.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I feel inspired to say, hey, I would really like to reconnect many times, but one time in particular, I would like to show you my Life is a Wave model.
I would love to hear all about it, experience
Cool.
it. Yeah. And I want to also say that there's along that same line, there's something I really, really want to share with you as well. So maybe we can do a little exchange like that.
Everything and anything I'm saying yes to.
Fantastic.
Whatever you're into, I'm into. This just feels fantastic.
It does, doesn't it?
So you got another, what, 7-8 minutes?
Yeah. Until past.
All right, just yell when it's time's up, because I won't know time when I get in.
Well, guess what? You'll be in flow, right?
Yes, and I do lose concept of time.
Same.
2 summers ago, I offered 100 free 2-hour coaching sessions for people. I had 119 people sign up for it.
Wow.
They didn't go just 2 hours. Some of them went 3, 4. The longest one was 6.5 hours.
Whoa! That's crazy talk.
And it was awesome. Just awesome.
I love it.
I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. I just wanted to just throw out all the marketing and all that crap. I just want to show up and say, hey, you want 2 hours with me? Let's have an incredible, powerful conversation that we're going to remember forever. That was it.
You want 2 hours with me? I'll give you 6.5.
That's what I did.
I love it.
All right. So,
is this going to do this justice in 5 minutes? I'm happy to do it, but I don't want to rush. Like, I want to really. Okay,
I'm not gonna go into the Life is a Wave thing. Actually, I'm just gonna talk about this. So, I told you that I had read 300 books, seminars, blah blah blah. Still cognitive challenges. Still not able to do my thing. Wipe the slate clean. What does life want? One thing, more life. And it's looking for conduits to move through. Mm-hmm. So here's a conduit. Here's a tube. And if this is a pipe, the form of life that's going through is water. Yeah? Now, if this pipe, this conduit, is a wire, then moving through a bunch of electrons. Yeah?
I'm with you.
Okay. And so what I do is that I say that there's only 2 possible responses to the moment. There's infinite variations. There's millions of different thoughts and images and emotional responses and stuff that we can have in any particular moment. And it's going to pull us into the content of whatever the mind created in that moment. It's going to pull us into it. All right? So what I do is I say that there's actually only 2 responses. And there's infinite variations, but there's only 2. So, quiz question for you. If you have a positive thought, what happens to your energy?
It elevates.
Yep. And if you have a negative thought, boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down we go.
So now, the base layer of Life is a Wave is life wants more life. That's L, up arrow, L, which means it's movement, growth, expansion, whatever. So life is movement. That's the foundation for everything. Mm. Everything else I say, this affects it. So now, if I say there's only 2 responses, it's either what I call a yes response, and I do not mean the word, or an opening. or it's a no response or closing. For all the laws of physics that deals with this thing, there's Ohm's law. Have you ever heard of Ohm's law?
No.
Okay, Ohm's law says the current, the net flow of the electrons, is only based on the voltage, right? 120 volts, or what is it in Australia? 220?
I have no idea. No idea.
220.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Well, my computer's working okay, so it must be more than 0.
So the voltage in the human domain is desire. So voltage in electronics is pressure moving forward. It's your desire. It's your passion. And the net flow of the current is, in everything's movement, is the the relationship between the pressure, the voltage, versus the shit that gets in the way, the resistance. In the human domain, it's the doubts, the fears, everything else. So now I'm going to come back to, in only 30 more seconds, is if I have a yes response, my tube just opened.
Yeah, you're a good conductor at that point.
Life likes that.
Yeah, life can flow through that easily.
Yep. And then here's a no response. And life has a little bit harder time moving through it. Yeah?
Yeah.
The number one killer on planet Earth, my doctor dad says, stress.
No, or also known as no.
Yes. Correct. To the no. So my definition of stress,
it's closing.
Perpetuated no's.
Yeah.
Because every time I have a no response or a thought, I wake up and say, oh my God, I got so much to do. That's a no thought. That remains running throughout my system until I either go to bed or I reframe it into a yes.
Yeah.
So I get a bunch of no thoughts. Oh my God, I got so much to do. Oh, what if this thing doesn't work out? Oh, what if he doesn't like me? Blah, 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 blah. That shit keeps running and it's squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. That is the opposite of what life is looking for. That's my definition of stress, perpetuated no's.
True brilliance, Kyle. I absolutely love it.
That gives you a little taste of life as a wave.
Well, hey, you have seriously whet my appetite, pun intended.
So my mission before you go, just so you know, while I'm here on planet Earth, I want to touch 1 billion lives, helping people free up their mind of this crap that gets in the way, not controlling, not changing, just freeing it up for the moment. And helping people find the flow so they can do their thing, live their adventure, live their life to the fullest. That's my mission at play.
Love it. We're on very similar missions, my friend.
When do you want to connect next?
My goodness, we need more people like us if we're going to do that.
And we need to be supporting each other.
Totally.
And so that we can bounce off of each other, exponentially grow in our impact, because this is the most exciting time to be alive in our 200,000 some odd year history. This is the time to be alive. And as far as I'm concerned, and try to prove me otherwise, I say there's only one problem on planet Earth, only one. And that is, and I'm going to show it to you next time we get together. I'm going to do a little demo. The mind is fucking with us. It comes up with an interpretation of reality. It then projects it into my now. And I actually believe that if I think you're an asshole because you look a certain way or talk a certain way, or you're really cool because you live blah, 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 that it shows up as reality instead of opinion.
Yeah.
So the mind is creating reality, projecting it into the now, and we're acting on that perceived reality. That is the only problem on planet Earth, is that the mind is fucking with us and we're inside of it and we don't know it. That's it. There's nothing else.
I'm right on that page with you, sister.
So that's my mission.
I'm on that page. All right. I'm with you. I love it.
Calendar date.
Yes.
I can meet next week.
Next week's really a little it's just a little hectic with the the keynote, and I'm also doing some more speaking next week. So
Okay.
could we make it the following?
Sure.
So the week of the 15th?
Okay.
Maybe like on the Tuesday or, well, sorry, I'm a day ahead of you. It's Friday already here. So my Tuesday would be your Monday, or my Wednesday would be your Tuesday.
My Tuesday would be great.
Perfect. So what time did we meet? Your time was 6 in the end.
It was today we met at 5.
It was 5. So that was an hour and a half ago. It was 5 o'clock. Is that right?
It's 7:30 right now, so it's 2.5 hours ago.
Oh, no. We met an hour and a half ago, so it would have been 6 that we met.
Nope. Oh, we met late.
We started an hour late.
For 5, but we then, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Does 6 work okay?
On the 16th, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, no, my dyslexia will fuck things up like you wouldn't believe. So I'm just warning you.
It's all good, baby. You bring it on. I'm a yes to your dyslexia. I'm a yes and. So that's Tuesday the 16th at 6 p.m. your time.
What's your last name again? Cook?
Cooksey. C-O-O-K.
Yeah, got it.
S-E-Y.
Okay, so if you want to meet at 6 o'clock my time, okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yep.
Awesome.
And I'm putting in a 2-hour thing just in case.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to put 2 hours
Yeah, you better do that.
You better do, bitch.
We got some lots of exploring to do yet.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, man. And I want to learn more about your mission at play and how I can potentially support you in that. So I want to learn more about that.
Super cool, Carl. It's just been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Oh, and by the way, I recorded this and I can send it to you.
Please, could you? Because I know quite a few people who I think would really benefit from hearing our chat. Would you be open to me sharing it with some other people?
I am the most open. I don't care what the hell people know about me.
Awesome.
I'm so past that.
You know, there is a client I'm working with at the moment who has been basically stuck for 25 years. He's done Landmark. He's done, you name it, he's done it.
Love
right?
it.
And he's still largely where he is, right? And it reminds me of your piece around, just being stuck in the prison of feeling like you have these cognitive glitches, right, that you're no longer in. He is in that prison still. And one of the things that we're really challenged with in our work is that currently he looks entirely through the lens of I'm broken beyond all doubt, right? There's a huge desire for change, but there is a very low belief in the possibility.
And so from Landmark, he knows that it's his story that's getting in the way, yeah?
Well, he has a sense of that, but it's up here. It's not down. It's not down here. So it occurred to me as we were speaking, and I just, I guess would ask if you'd consider this. I would like to give him a recording of our conversation, because I think there's a lot in there that will help him from just hearing your story. But if it resonates with him and you're willing, I would even love to ask if you'd be willing to just have a chat with him about, just to tell him your experience of being so wedded to these cognitive glitches, because he really needs to hear from a range of different people that it is possible to get beyond even the most intractable stuff. So I don't know if you'd be willing to consider that, but
yes.
Maybe you can think about.
No, I don't have to think about it. It's a yes. It's a yes.
Cool. Fabulous. All right. Well, thank you so much, Carl. Love that conversation, and so appreciate you and your everything. So
that's awesome. Thank you for reaching out to me. That was extremely meaningful to me. I loved our talk tonight. I can't wait until the 16th to continue the conversation.
Sounds awesome.
All right. Yeah. And just so you know, one of the things I'm going to be looking for is my Untapped Genius site, which I'm redesigning and everything. I want a clear, compelling message so that the life is a wave thing from the outside is going to be accessible. And it's like, ooh, I want to learn more about this. And we'll talk more about it. I know you got to go. So, but that's my mission at Play Now, is to bring the theme for 2018 for me is one word: click. Things click into place.
Oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
It instantly feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well,
so I'm going to be looking for outside perspective.
Totally. I am right there, sister. I'll see you on the 16th, if not before. Take care.
Hey, man, have fun next week. Holy shit.
Oh, my God. Yes, and to the Beyonce-ness, the mashiness.
And I'll leave you with one other expression. I've got it on my little thing here on my monitor. Permission to suck.
Yes, exactly.
Bye.
Bye, Carl. See ya.